What if everything we thought we knew about Blake Lively's so-called smear campaign was completely wrong? What if the real story hiding beneath court filings and secret texts revealed that the entire scandal was a carefully crafted illusion? A setup so intricate that even Hollywood's biggest players got caught in the crossfire. Tonight we're diving deep into the evidence that could turn this entire case upside down and expose the truth that no one saw coming. It all started with whispers that seemed harmless at first, a few murmurs online, a handful of speculative headlines, but soon those whispers became a storm, and at the center of it stood Blake Lively, a name once synonymous with Hollywood elegance and charm, now wrapped in controversy and suspicion. The spark that ignited this wildfire came when documents surfaced suggesting that Justin Baldoni's legal team had uncovered communications Blake never wanted the world to see, texts, emails, and private memos that allegedly painted a very different picture of her role in the spiraling saga. It wasn't just about defamation anymore. This was about power, control, and reputation in a city where image means everything, and the timing could not have been more deliberate. Justin Blake's PR machine seemed to have regained footing. Reports began leaking that deadlines had been missed, filings had been rejected, and that Justin's case was hanging by a thread. The press jumped on it, labeling it a victory for Blake, but behind the polished headlines, the truth was far more complex and far less flattering. According to sources close to the case, Justin's lawyers were working quietly, methodically, and strategically. Every missed deadline was part of a larger tactical delay, a move designed to force transparency and expose inconsistencies in Blake's own claims. They weren't scrambling, they were setting a trap, and soon enough it began to close. Insiders revealed that attorney Ron Zambrano was preparing a legal counterstrike that would shake the foundation of Blake's defense. The team had allegedly obtained permission to compel production of certain digital correspondences between Blake and third parties, material that could redefine the narrative entirely. And this wasn't gossip, this was documentation verified through discovery orders and motion filings. Yet what made it all explosive was not just what was written, but who was involved. Names from the upper tiers of entertainment, PR, and management firms whose influence stretched far beyond one celebrity's reputation. If what was in those texts became public, it wouldn't just affect Blake's case, it could expose an entire network of media manipulation and narrative engineering carefully orchestrated to protect Hollywood's most profitable faces. The question then became not whether Justin could win the case, but whether the system itself could withstand the fallout, because if even a fraction of those alleged communications saw daylight, they could call into question how many of our so-called scandals are real and how many are manufactured behind closed doors. The more you peel back the layers, the clearer it becomes that this isn't just about defamation. It's about the quiet war between truth and control, between reputation and reality, and it's only just beginning. As the story deepened, the courtroom became more than a place of law. It became a battlefield of perception, a war fought through leaks, whispers, and perfectly timed statements. Every move Blake's camp made was countered with quiet precision from Justin's team, and while the media painted a picture of disarray inside Baldoni's corner, those who followed closely could see the pattern forming, like a chess match where one player sacrifices pieces only to reveal a devastating strategy later on. Sources who attended the pretrial meetings described an atmosphere thick with tension. Reporters lined the courthouse steps, ready to capture a glimpse of either party, yet inside what unfolded was far more intricate than anyone expected, because this wasn't just about clearing a name. It was about proving manipulation that stretched far beyond two individuals. Evidence suggested that some of Blake's communications might have included guidance from outside parties, strategists, and media handlers, working to maintain an image even as her credibility was questioned, and while her supporters dismissed the claims as fabrication. The documents told another story, a story of coordination and calculation. When Justin's lawyers argued that the case was about truth, not theatrics, it struck a nerve, because suddenly this wasn't just a personal dispute, it was a referendum on how Hollywood protects its icons and sacrifices its challengers in the name of public perfection. And that's when Ron Zambrano stepped forward to dismantle the illusion piece by piece. His filings laid out timelines of when statements were made, how narrative shifted, and who stood to gain. It wasn't aggressive grandstanding, it was quiet confidence, and it worked. The court began to take notice, particularly when contradictions started emerging between Blake's public comments and her private correspondence. Her insistence that she had no influence over certain articles was contradicted by messages that appear to suggest otherwise, messages where she allegedly coordinated with PR representatives to ensure specific storylines. Reached favored outlets, the implications were devastating not just legally but ethically, because this meant that the public perception of the case could have been artificially shaped from the start. Suddenly, the so-called missed deadlines by Justin's side no longer looked like negligence, they looked like patience, a slow, deliberate move to expose the machinery of misinformation. But perhaps the most shocking twist came when new discovery requests hinted that certain deleted data might still be recoverable if those messages were retrieved. They could become the smoking gun that redefines everything, both in court and in the court of public opinion. And so the question hanging over everyone's heads wasn't just who was telling the truth, but how far would each side go to control the version of truth the world would see. And as the legal teams prepared for the next round of filings, it became evident that this was no longer a simple lawsuit. It was the slow unraveling of an empire built on image, and the cracks were beginning to show. By the time part 3 of this unfolding drama took shape, the tone around Hollywood had shifted dramatically. What once looked like another celebrity feud had evolved into something darker, more systemic, and far more revealing. Insiders began describing it as a reckoning, a confrontation between the polished illusion of fame and the gritty machinery behind it. Blake Lively had always been seen as untouchable, her image pristine, her marriage adored, her friendships carefully curated, but now every aspect of that carefully constructed identity was under a microscope. And what Justin Baldoni's legal team appeared to be doing was not simply defending him, but methodically dismantling the myth around her case. Reports emerged that several of Blake's closest industry allies had begun distancing themselves quietly, avoiding public statements and refraining from reposting her usual PR-friendly content. That silence spoke volumes because it suggested they knew what was coming. One insider close to a major talent agency even described the atmosphere as panic, saying people were terrified of being linked to what could soon become a precedent-setting exposure of how celebrity reputations are engineered. But what made this chapter truly intense is the quiet reveal of the digital trail hidden among the discovery materials, metadata, timestamps, and backups that allegedly contradicted sworn statements. This wasn't speculation anymore. This was verifiable data, and as Ron Zambrano's filings grew more specific, so did the discomfort within Blake's camp. Her lawyers reportedly tried to block certain motions on grounds of privacy, but the judge wasn't buying it, stating that relevance outweighed embarrassment. It was a rare moment in Hollywood litigation, transparency piercing through the usual shield of celebrity privilege. And that's when the story took an unexpected turn, because what emerged next wasn't just about Blake, it was about the entire machine of narrative management that surrounds high-profile figures, the PR firms, the gossip columns, the influencers quietly fed stories to steer conversations, all of them operating within a system that rewarded distraction over truth. Justin's side wasn't just exposing one actress, they were pulling back the curtain on an entire ecosystem of manipulation. And when that reality began to dawn on the public, the outrage was palpable. Online discourse exploded as old clips, interviews, and statements were reanalyzed. Fans who once defended Blake started asking hard questions about inconsistencies and missing context, while media watchdogs began scrutinizing the outlets that had pushed the earliest anti-Baldoni stories. It was as if the entire internet had woken up to the idea that maybe this wasn't the story they were told, maybe this was something much bigger, something orchestrated. And the more the filings revealed, the more that theory gained credibility. Even the language used in certain tabloid articles mirrored internal communications between PR handlers, suggesting coordination rather than coincidence. The illusion of spontaneity was shattered, and for the first time in her career, Blake's charm wasn't enough to change the narrative. The once unquestioned darling of Hollywood now faced the cold glare of accountability, and no amount of curated appearances or soft interviews could rewrite the documents being entered into the public record, because facts, once revealed, are stubborn things, and no matter how beautiful the illusion may be, the truth beneath it always finds a way to surface. And so, as the dust begins to settle, one thing becomes painfully clear: this was never just about one lawsuit or a few controversial text messages. It was about the fragility of reputation in a world built on illusion, a world where perception is currency and where the truth can be buried under layers of polished PR spin for only so long. Because what this entire saga revealed is that even the most meticulously controlled narratives have limits, and once those cracks start to form, no amount of fame or influence can stop the truth from leaking through. What started as whispers about Blake Lively's alleged smear campaign against Justin Baldoni has now evolved into a case study in modern celebrity power, the kind that doesn't just depend on talent or public goodwill but on access to media networks, willing to shape reality itself to protect their clients. And what's fascinating is that Justin's team didn't fight back with noise or spectacle. They fought with patience, with paper, with precision. They let Blake's team move first. They let the public think he was losing. And then, when the timing was perfect, they revealed the inconsistencies, the contradictions, and the private communications that changed everything. That's not luck, that's strategy, and it's why so many people in the entertainment industry are watching this case with fear, because if Justin Baldoni can survive this storm and walk out vindicated, it will change how Hollywood handles accountability forever. It sends a message that fame no longer guarantees protection, that image no longer equals innocence, and that the public is finally learning to read between the lines of every perfectly framed headline. Blake Lively's silence over the past few weeks has only amplified speculation. Insiders claim her PR advisors are urging her to lay low to avoid fueling the fire, but others close to the situation suggest that the silence isn't just a choice, it's a necessity, because the more she speaks, the more she risks contradicting the paper trail left behind. It's a precarious position, one that could determine not just the outcome of the case, but her long-term legacy, because Hollywood forgives many things, but it struggles to forgive deceit. And when perception turns against you, it doesn't take long for that same industry that built you to start looking for someone new to worship. And that's exactly what's happening right now. While Justin Baldoni remains calm, focused, and methodical, Blake's once impenetrable support system is beginning to fracture quietly but visibly. Brands have pulled back, journalists once sympathetic are treading cautiously, and fans are asking questions no PR spin can easily answer. What did those messages really say? What was being hidden? And why? The answers might still be unfolding in court, but the cultural shift is already happening. The idea that one celebrity's image could be protected at the expense of another's reputation is no longer being accepted without scrutiny. People are starting to see the machinery behind the fame, and that transparency is the one thing Hollywood has always feared most. In the end, this saga may be remembered not just as a defamation case, but as a turning point, the moment when the veil lifted and the world began questioning how much of what we see in entertainment is truth and how much is choreography. Maybe Blake Lively will recover, maybe she won't, but what's undeniable is that her story now stands as a warning that even in an industry built on fiction, authenticity still matters, because when the lights fade and the headlines move on, what remains are the facts, and those can't be rewritten no matter how powerful the players may be.